The Hancock Sports Hall of Fame is an arena and a venue that we've set up with our committee to honor great athletes, great athletic teams, any person who has excelled in any type of athletics in Hancock County, or if they live in Hancock County, or if they spent time on teams in Hancock County. And you would think that it was rather difficult, but we have a long line of people yet to nominate. In the first class, there was two great coaches in Hancock County. Doc Castor, Harold Doc Castor from Arlington, who had a fantastic record, and Findlay High's coach from 1948 when they won the state championship and won undefeated, Carl Bachman, who did a great job. We have guys that played in the NFL, and we have guys that played in the NBA. We have guys that played Major League Baseball, great racers. Findlay and Hancock County has just been a great bed of talent. I would hate to name another 10 people because I'd leave 100 out. Our Hall of Fame came about or formed actually through the brainchild of Tom Jeffire 30 years ago. This is our 30th banquet, and he had seen Halls of Fame in Michigan and Detroit and Bowling Green and various places, and he certainly thought that that sort of thing should happen in Hancock County. And he got a group of people that together for the charter committee. We had no idea what was going on. I'm not so sure Tom did, but we always kind of referred to it as pulling off a pretty good train robbery, and we got it started. And it has just blossomed and bloomed, and we've got a sold-out venue this year, and we're just tickled to death.
I'm very humbled and honored to be receiving the Neto Award. I actually had the pleasure of knowing him as I was a young official moving up through the ranks in the Findlay Football Association. He was a great man and a great official, and I'm truly proud of receiving this award in his namesake. My dad also won this award. He might have been the inaugural winner, as I recollect. So yeah, I'm pretty proud to be in his company. Dad was a football coach at Fostoria for a while, and then right before I got into high school, he got out of coaching and then went into officiating. And then of course I played, and then when I got into college, I pursued officiating, more so for the just for the money, you know, to make some money, work some freshman games, JV games here and there, and fell in love with it. I developed a passion for officiating, but you know, Dad was definitely the person that kind of got me going that direction. Having a thick skin, because no matter what you call or don't call, 50% of the crowd's going to be either happy or mad, you know, just like any sport. But I tell you, the game is changing a little bit. I think what's really important to call a game is, you know, you have to get the big stuff. Leave the little fender benders alone. You got to get the wrecks. And no one's there to see you officiate. Sometimes even your family's not there to see you officiate. They're there to watch the game also. So you just try to stay out of the way, make sure that it's a fair contest, that no team gains an unfair advantage, but get the big stuff and let them play. During my high school career, I had the opportunity to work the Big 33 game, Ohio versus Pennsylvania. Worked 2 state championship games, and actually had to turn a few back because at the time I was working small college and high school at the same time, and I received some college playoff games, so I opted to forego the high school championship games to pursue the college playoff games because I knew that that would look much better on my resume as I wanted to move up the ranks. But once I got in the Mid-American Conference, I had some nice travel games, got to travel to Navy, out to Boise State, work on the blue field, which was kind of cool. Worked 2 Mid-American Championship games at Ford Field. And then in the Big Ten, I have worked a BCS Bowl game. I worked the Sugar Bowl. Last December, I worked the Big Ten Championship game. But I've got to tell you, 3 years ago, I got the opportunity to work the Ohio State-Michigan game, and that is by far, being an Ohio guy and growing up as an Ohio State fan, the Ohio State-Michigan game is probably my most memorable assignment.
Al Baker, great person, great friend of athletics in Hancock County. Started out as a student at Findlay College, became the basketball coach at Arcadia, did a great job there. Took that basketball team to the regional. I think that had been the first time that Arcadia was there. He then was an assistant and worked at Findlay High School. Introduced women's golf at the University of Findlay, coached both women's and men's golf, was assistant in basketball to Ron Niekamp, and certainly has the qualifications to be in our Hall of Fame.
I was pleasantly surprised when I got the call, and you know, especially knowing some of the other honorees that are going in at this time, it's quite an honor. It's a privilege. You know, we started out 2-17. You know, I was starting to question myself a little bit, and but the kids hung in there, and they kept getting better and better, and we ended up going to the regionals 2 years in a row. And you know, I'd have to say that was probably my fondest memory, that first team. Unfortunately, we had to play St. Henry in the regional finals, who beat everybody else they played that year. So we lost to the state champions, and it was a good run. Yeah, that was a nice honor, and a great group of kids, and you know, you always remember that first team. So that was it was nice to go in. I really loved golf. I couldn't say that I was had any background in coaching golf, but that was part of the position of assistant coach and teaching, as well as the men's golf coaching job. And so once I got into that, things just seemed to blossom, and we had the opportunity to start a women's golf program, and so it kind of took off from there. That was a lot of fun. You know, that was our 4th year, and I was fortunate enough recruiting that very first year the first state champion, women's state champion in Ohio, Kiki Corliss. And she was just down the road at Mohawk High School, and I hadn't seen anything where she'd signed anywhere. So, you know, I gave her a call, and sure enough, she liked the campus. And 4 years later, she became a 4-time All-American and a national champion, and led the team to the national championship. Well, I just retired this past summer from the University of Findlay, and so right now I'm spending a lot more time with my dad and working on the house a little bit, and just kind of enjoying my time.
Another father-son combination we have now in the Hancock Sports Hall of Fame. His father, Dean, was inducted a few years ago. Andy was a great athlete in high school. Played for Liberty Benton High School, played basketball, baseball, led the Eagles to the state championship, and was picked the most valuable player in the state high school basketball tournament. Did a great job with averaging in double figures, and was a great basketball player. Of course, Andy was also a great baseball player. He was, of course, all conference and all state in basketball and baseball. And in baseball, he had the opportunity to sign a pro contract with Minnesota, and he'd probably still be playing if it weren't for an injury that he kind of goofed up his shoulder and arm. But again, just another one of the many persons that we have to pick from, and there's many more, but we're happy to have Andy.
Well, it means a lot. It's a great cap, I think, to my career. Wasn't sure this was going to happen, so it's a tremendous honor. Yeah, he beat me to it. He's well deserved, so it is an honor to be in. I don't know how many father-sons are in, but I think it means a lot to both of us. Yeah, you know, I gotta be honest, I was privileged to win quite a few individual awards, you know, but I was never about the points and trophies and awards, anything like that. For me, it was always about, you know, the group of guys I was with and competing and just going out and winning games. That was what was important, and those are the things I look back on and remember the most. It's been so long ago. You know, I think it was the rapport I had with the coaches. They recruited me the hardest. Wasn't too far away from home, obviously. They had a pretty decent baseball program, and that's what drew me to it. We played the #1 team in the country, and it wasn't pretty, but it was just great for us, you know, coming out of the MAC. You know, I don't know if Bowling Green, I think that may have been the first time Bowling Green had ever made the NCAA tournament. It was a lot of fun to go down. We got to go down to Miami, and it was a good experience. It was a lifetime dream, obviously, to get that opportunity, and it was great for me. I know my parents were really proud, and it was a special moment for sure. You know, it went back to probably my sophomore year in college. From that point forward, I really battled a lot of arm injuries, and as a pitcher, it was extremely difficult. It was frustrating, but you know, I did the best I could. I don't have any regrets. You know, I feel like in a way I was actually fortunate to get that opportunity with what I went through. But again, I don't have any regrets with how my career ended.
Oh, you talk about a grand lady. Now, there's a grand lady. And Mary's in her 90s. Mary played basketball at Liberty in 1938. And I think that girls' teams then were banned in about 1940. High school girls used to play the JV game instead of the JV team. It was a girls' game and then a boys' game. And then somehow people in their infinite wisdom decided it wasn't healthy for girls to play team sports. And then they went to GAA and various outlets. Well, Mary kind of took the bull by the horns, went to Findlay High School and just made up a team. You know, they didn't have to answer to the High School Athletic Association or anybody else. And she played games. And she didn't only play high school, she played colleges. She played Bluffton College, Findlay College, Ohio Northern, whoever they'd play. And one year, they only lost one game, and that was to a college. And they didn't get beat. Mary then, later on, became an instructor in health and physical education and a coach at then Bluffton College, which is now Bluffton University. Did a great job there, coaching and teaching. And of course, eventually she retired. She and her husband were down in North Fort Myers, Florida. Got into a shuffleboard league and just became all kind of champions there and all national federations. And then her husband Eldon passed away. She remarried, and she and her current husband are still in the shuffleboard circuit, and they have a lot of honors, both state and nationally, and I think a few international too. And she's in her 90s, so what a wonderful lady, and what a great time for her.
Well, first of all, I thought, can it really be? And I said, is this a dream, or is it really so? And I was very happy to think that maybe I did, you know, deserve to get that said about myself, you know, and I really appreciated it. It was a shock to me because I realized what it meant to the girls, all the teammates and everything, to be able to play and be able to show that I wanted to go ahead and try to help to get it back, that we could play again. So that was one of the big things that I did do in my life, that I really, I'm glad that I could accomplish it. It soon started up again. But it did make it more difficult for me because I had the job of making all the schedules, getting teams to play, and we played colleges and we played high school, and in 5 years we lost one game. That was the record that we had. It was really such a satisfying day that we got the sports all rolling again. And today now I think they're being treated very well, and the girls express themselves as much as the boys. Well, I think it's like anything. If you get into it and you want to do as well as you can, and it was very satisfying to be able to. We traveled to Japan and Australia, Canada, and countries like that, South America. We're in the Hall of Fame of the shuffleboard world. Just so happy that I have had a healthy life, and I do think it was because I was interested in sports, and I never stopped. I still am playing golf and doing various sports, and that you do when you're old as I am, which is 93.
Bill Kotterman played, is remembered, I think, first for playing basketball at Riverdale High School. Soon after, I was going to say right after they consolidated, but it was probably about 10 years later or so. And they had a great basketball team at that time, and they won the sectionals, and they won the districts, and they got to the regional finals and just missed going to the state tournament by 1 year, and had a great team. But Bill, and he also was an athlete in other sports too at that time at Riverdale. It was all conference, all Ohio, all that sort of thing. And then Bill went to Findlay and became, you know, a great athlete and a great basketball player, and certainly a lot of people remember him from there. And not only that, he's a great person. He's a great guy and very deserving. We had a great career. I mean, and that's just not, we had
teams that, you know, were full of good players, and, you know, it just weren't 3 or 4. We had 10 or 12 good players. And we were able to, when I was a freshman, I was part of I didn't get to go to state, but they went to state, and then the next 3 years we were in the regional finals, and then regionals, semis, and it was just a great run. And a lot of excitement in the school. It was fun. I ended up at Findlay. You know, I went to basketball camps at Findlay, and I grew to like the tartan floor, you know, and I liked the area, and I really respected Coach Outshell, and it was a no-brainer. I kind of wanted to go there all along, so, and it worked out well. Some of the highlights is I can remember one. I mean, playing Hanover at home. Hanover was always really good. You know, they were always one of the top teams in the nation, and Coach always had you know, that battle with their coach. They were good friends, but, you know, always wanted to beat each other. And I think it was my sophomore year at home. Last second, he called my number and made it, and we won that, and that was it was special. That was a different experience. Got out of college, was farming. Coach Howdeshell gave me a call, and he said, "Hey, got a call from a team overseas, over in Iceland, that wants to know if you're interested." My wife had a job, and she was working in Blanchard Valley, and had to make a decision. Okay, let's go do this, and it worked out well. I mean, it was a different experience. We first pulled in, it was 10 o'clock in the morning, it was dark. It got light at 11, and it got dark at 2. And so it was a growing experience, but a lot of good basketball, and I'll never forget that. And I played for the Super 6, and each team had an American that there was led the team, and then he also did coaching. But I got to be real good friends. One of my best friends that I called him before I went over was Brad Miley, and he had played at Indiana State with Larry Bird, and he was his roommate at that time. So I got to be good friends with him, and there was a couple other guys that were playing that had played in the NBA and were back playing over in Iceland at that time. So it was good competition. Means everything. It's an honor to be a part of this inductee class. I think it's the 30th class, and then to know the inductees prior to this, it's a humbling experience, and it's quite an honor.
Doc Schoonover is the only person, an inductee, that I haven't met. So I met his daughter, I met his son-in-law, and listened to some of the tales that they had to tell me. So I'm really looking forward to meeting this individual tonight. Can you imagine, he won his last race when he was 93 years old. That's when he won his last one. And he got injured racing a sulky, and he just, to me, if you can get in a horse race when you're 93 years old, let alone win it, which he did, and the spunk and the vitality that he has at that age, I'm just excited to meet somebody like that. And of course, he was a veterinarian, and but his love for horses and his love for racing, and to still be kicking around, and we didn't even know if he was going to be here. He had a problem and ended up in the hospital, but he told him, he said, "I will be here." So I'm looking forward to meeting him pretty quick.
Knowing Doc as well as I have, and I probably know him probably as well as anybody that's left here on this earth, he considers this a extremely rare honor because it's from Hancock County. He grew up here. He's known so many people over the years here, and he just feels totally thrilled that he's being honored by people locally. He's had some statewide honors, but they don't mean nearly as much to him as the people he's been around with his entire life. His father really developed an interest in it first, and he was a retired vet himself, and Doc got into the veterinary business during the Second World War, and through his father, he developed a love for horses also, and he thought, well, maybe I'll try some harness racing. It was pretty big back in those days, and there were a lot of county fairs, and at that time, it was such a big deal that they would they would race 2 heats. Harness races do not run. They either trot or they pace. If they run, you're in trouble. Back in the early days when he first started, the USTA, the United States Trotting Association, didn't keep records as closely as they do now. And Doc, when he went full-time after he retired from his veterinary practice, he really wasn't all concerned with winning percentages and money. He was in it for the love of the sport. It was a hobby to him, and just a means of getting a little bit extra income on top of what his retirement was. So he was in for, and he'll tell you more times than not that it's a family thing. He's not in it for the money. It never was about the money and winnings, and he just enjoys being with the people and racing harness horses. He and another gentleman that lives in Illinois, and his name escapes me right now, but he was a couple of years older than Doc, but he only raced 1 or 2 times a year at his local county fair, whereas Doc was actually still racing at pari-mutuels, and he was staked at several different circuits here in the state of Ohio, so he was racing between 20 and 25 times a year. And it's just phenomenal to watch him out on the track. His competitive spirit, even at his advanced age, it's really an inspiration for anybody that's around him.
He had a great athletic career both at Liberty Benton High School and at the University of Findlay. Nate played numerous sports, played basketball, played football, just a little bit of everything. He's probably most remembered for football and basically defensive football. When he was at the University of Findlay, well, he had numerous interceptions and various things at Liberty Benton High School. When he got to the University of Findlay, he intercepted 2 passes and returned both of them for touchdowns in one season. I think that's still a record at the University of Findlay, but he was on the last national championship team that the Oilers had, and just a great competitor, a great defensive player, kind of the king of the interceptions, but then continued his all kind of honors, all league, all conference, and then kind of went into the school business and still is in athletics, and now is the athletic director for the Trojans.
It's just an honor and a privilege to be part of such an elite class of athletes and people here, so very fortunate. It's an incredible group, and being a part with Andy on our teams, now with him winning the championship in '95, and I believe he scored 31 that game, so yeah, it's just incredible being part with Liberty Benton, Mr. Butler going in a couple years ago, so very fortunate. The same as the university as well. It's just being a part with your teammates. That's what I miss the most. Just being with a part of your team, your coaches, the game planning, just being prepared and going out and performing. So. Yeah, I remembered it. I got all 5 in quarters number 2 and 3, and Coach England pulled me out after the third quarter, and I've had to give him a hard time a couple times about that one. It should have been actually 6. We had it was called back. A gentleman clipped 45 yards behind me after I scored. So, no, we were extremely fortunate, our whole team. The one that does stand out is my 109-yard interception return. Intercept that at the the back of the end zone and ran that back right at the end of the second quarter. Probably the one that does I remember most is when we were playing Pac Lutheran at Donnell Stadium in the semifinals, and got undercut, tore my ACL, and had to sit out the next game. I got undercut, and we were out of timeouts. Well, we didn't want to call a timeout because the play was obviously still going on. They were at about the 40-yard line or so, and we didn't want the clock to stop. And so I was still out there for about 4 or 5 plays, and I just told Ray Long, our middle linebacker, I said, I'm just going to stand over here. I'm going to funnel everything into you, and you take care of the rest. So played on that with a torn ACL, and then was fortunate to come back in the championship game against John Kitna in Central Washington, and did okay. So.
The 1952 Cory-Rawson football team played an 8-game season, were undefeated, untied, and unscored upon. Now, in the history of high school football in the state of Ohio, there's only been 8 teams in 100 and some years of football that have gone unscored upon. And this certainly was one in 1952. It's one, it's in the group category, and the group category can be teams or various groups or whatever. It's one of those categories that maybe we should have gotten in earlier, because those old geezers are my age. They're between 75 and 80 years old. But again, great turnout. They sold like 92 tickets that are going to be here. Once again, unscored upon. Al Williamson was the captain of that team. He was a leading rusher in the state of Ohio that particular year. So those guys certainly deserve to be in that special category and to be part of the Hall of Fame in 2014.
It's amazing that through the years, we've stayed a team, we stayed close, and we remember more about those football games than we did what we had for breakfast. Well, at the time, we didn't realize how much of an accomplishment that was. Only time has tested that. I think there have been just a few teams that have that record. And we knew we were good, but nobody else knew we were as good. It took 62 years, I guess, for us to find it. Probably one of the finest moments was, people don't remember today, but at that time Arlington had 50 straight victories, or seemed like 400, but I think it was 50 or 52 or something. And we beat them that year, and that was a big milestone. It was a team, which shows you that I don't care how good 5 or 6 players are, you can't keep a team from scoring unless you got a complete defensive team. We didn't realize till the middle of the season that we had done that, really. We never talked much about it, but towards the end of the season it became, we knew we could win. We just didn't want anybody to score on us. What it taught me was that it's amazing what you can do as a team. I took that through life, and it was the biggest lesson in life for me, that me as an individual can't do much, but as a team, and I've tried in my work situations and all to build strong teams, because the smartest guy in the room doesn't win, it's the team that wins.
the 30th year. And my goodness, we look back 30 years ago, we didn't know if it would we'd get through 1 year. We didn't know how we could do it because, you know, we don't have any money, and we buy rings for the participants, we buy plaques, we buy all this kind of stuff and the meal. But our committee has been great. We've got a committee of about 14 or 15 people. I think there's about 4 or 5 of the original committee that are still here. And these folks just work unselfishly and, you know, no pay, no money, and put in a lot of time. And as long as we can get people like that, you know, to work, as long as we can get people to nominate great people, as long as we can get people to certainly have an interest, and as long as we can keep selling out, I think the future is bright. I think it's great, and I think the future, because we've got some great people waiting in the wings to get in this Hall of Fame, you know, and we have to thank the great people of Hancock County for supporting us and also for supplying us for people to nominate. So we hope it's great.